All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Fun and exciting show for you guys. Trump's a madman. I think you might have been onto that, but the rest of Washington isn't. I was on getting interviewed on the radio today, and they're all talking like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine," and I'm like, "No, the guy's mentally unstable." Yeah. Anyway, we're going to talk about that in the context of him walking out on the Democrats and throwing a temper tantrum in the Rose Garden. I actually have a little bit of breaking news as to why that might have happened as well. That's a little bit later in the program, although it's breaking. Anyway, and I have awesome updates for you guys on the Iowa rally. Awesome. TYT.com/rally. You're gonna see in just a little bit as well. And then Katie Porter hands Ben Carson not only his ass, but well, no, she hands him his ass. He hands back Oreo cookies. So that's a story. We'll get to that later. And then Biden versus Sanders on the crime bill. Drums. All right, let's have some fun. All right, Anna, what's up?
All right. In the latest example of how meritocracy is just a myth in the United States, the New York Times has published a lengthy feature on The View and has dubbed it the most important political TV show in America. That is what they have called it. The most important political show in America. And I'm talking about The View, where on a regular basis, not only we dunk on them, but the country dunks on them because they have absolutely no knowledge. And when I say they, I'm mostly talking about Abby Huntsman, obviously Meghan McCain, and their insanely superficial discussions about politics, which it appears they never prepare for, and just read talking points that are written on blue cards for them, and then somehow that's the most important political talk show in America, Cenk.
Yes.
Did you know? Did you know it's the most important talk show covering politics in America?
Well, look, we might have a slight disagreement on this. No, it's not allowed. No is the answer. No, seriously. Look, on the other hand, I love that Joy Behar's on that show.
Yeah.
She's probably the single most progressive person on television.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
So this is not, while we go on with this story, I just want to make clear that she is not the issue, and I am not at all referring to her or Sunny Hostin when I make my comments.
And Sunny's great. So look, is there a lot of TV shows on TV where you have two pundits who are great? Not a lot. So they have two that we think are terrible, right? But and guys, it's not just because we're progressives and hence we like Joy and Sunny, and we don't like the Meghan and Abby Huntsman because they're on the right. It matters if you know your material. It matters if you have the right facts. And so they do engage in a lot of political conversation, and a lot of politicians do go on there, and a lot of people do pay attention to it. Those are facts. So I get where New York Times Magazine is coming from in that regard. Whether it should be the most important political show is a different question, but anyone who watches that, I mean, even if you're a right wing, are you proud of your representation on that show? On the other hand,
they are.
Yeah, but like on the other hand, what do you got? Well, your entire side is devoid of facts, so good luck with that.
All right, so let me give you a little of what Amanda Fitzsimmons of the New York Times, or New York Magazine, I should say, New York Times Magazine writes. She says, The View has hosted politicians almost since its start, but until recently it was not taken seriously by them. In the past few years, however, The View has become a place where Democrats and Republicans alike go to introduce themselves to a national audience, an essential campaign stop. 12 of the 26 people who have announced that they are running for president in 2020 have already been on the show, with one more, Senator Elizabeth Warren, already scheduled. No, I guess, look, I mean, I guess this is more a commentary about where we are as a country, right? Mm-hmm. Because what are we doing? Like, what are we doing, right? So why don't why don't we find someone's daughter somewhere, some conservative daughter somewhere, there's plenty of them running around, right?
Yeah.
And just have them on our show. We'll never prepare anything. We'll just have headlines in front of us. Maybe Brett can write some talking points, maybe some bullets, you know? Why am I reading? Why am I spending all day producing a 2-hour show that's actually well researched? Well, let's just have some random person that we're gonna fight with, and then everyone will take us seriously. And then we'll have every candidate on the show every day.
Now, to be fair to us, we've already had 10 candidates. They've had 12, we've had 10 candidates, okay.
Yeah, but we are not an important show, okay? We're nothing but trash, and we'll never get taken seriously. Yeah. We'll never get a write-up like that.
Okay, so if it sounds a little bitter, man,
super bitter.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes. Okay, so we're honest, we're always honest, right? Even if it's against us. But is Anna's frustrations about the lack of depth in the coverage in the overall media true? Of course it's true, and you know it. And in this case, I'm not referring to The View, I'm referring to the New York Times. If it's a mainstream media outlet, they don't have to be very substantive. And the New York Times can be seduced by celebrity, and so can The View, and etc. And everybody knows Meghan McCain's not qualified. All you have to do is watch for 5 minutes. And so that might sound harsh, but look, our job is to analyze the news. And if they are that relevant, then it's super important to analyze them, as we do with CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, etc. And you know what the reality is. And she's on there because she was John McCain's son. But New York Times finds that legitimate and wonderful, and so does the rest of the media. That is why things on The View are amplified. Whereas when we have Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tulsi Gabbard, Tim Ryan, etc. on, they are not as amplified because they go, oh no, you guys are online. Now wait a minute, what does that have to do with the amount of the audience? We have 50 million unique viewers a month. They're like, I don't understand internet numbers. Okay, then you should be fired, okay? And I'm gonna tell you why this is relevant beyond us in a second. It's actually super important to this race and to the national conversation, because it's not just about us, okay? And then you say, all right, well, we're online. I don't know why that would make a difference, but as you watch any of our interviews, we ask much tougher questions, right? Watch my interview with Tulsi Gabbard, watch my interview with Tim Ryan, watch our interview with Bernie Sanders, where we got him to admit a couple of things that now the rest of the press actually do quote, because hey, that might be negative against Bernie Sanders, so they like to quote those, so etc. And with Elizabeth Warren, I asked her about Medicare for all or public option, and she had to clarify. I asked her if in the general election she's going to continue to not do fundraising calls. She had to clarify. Those are really important, but gets almost no coverage because honestly, New York Times like brags about how deep and intellectual they are. They're the paper of record, but they don't really care much about substance. So, and then we turn to, they say, okay, maybe they just disqualify everyone online. No, they wrote glowing articles about Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro doesn't have a fraction of our audience, but New York
pieces on the intellectual dark web.
Intellectual dark web. It's hilarious.
I shouldn't be surprised by this.
Yeah,
piece.
I mean, it's sociopathic dark web. But instead of writing it in an objective way, not neutral, objective way, they wrote it as a fluff piece of Ben Shapiro, who's monstrous and makes insane points and brags about how the Palestinians should, he claims lives in sewers and they just like to bomb things, and I can go on, right? Let alone the 100 other things, how 70% of the Jews in the country aren't real Jews because they voted for Obama, and New York Times is like, bravo, intellectual, right? And then you got progressives and they go, nope, not interested, never gonna cover it. There is a national embargo on progressives. That's a fact. So now let's get to that, because that's the real relevant thing here. Because on The View at best, you're even because you got two good progressives and you have two right-wingers who don't know what they're talking about, and Whoopi's totally establishment. Let's keep it real. You might like her, she's smart, she's funny, but she's totally establishment.
I mean, the way that she's talked about taxes, she's complained about how taxes are too high, the way she's talked about Justice Democrats, the way she's talked about Medicare for all. So she doesn't fall in the category of the progressive panelist. But
no, not at all. Right. And so you might say, hey, okay, so that's an interesting mix. But what is the only thing that's left out of almost all national conversations? Shows, channels, networks from a progressive perspective. It's considered weirdly illegitimate, even though we're the ones with all the facts, stats, research, etc. And we present it every day, and the New York Times goes, nope. And it's not, look, it's not just the New York Times. You can't get on cable news if you're a progressive. You just, they're like, no, you're fringe, you're this, you're that, we're not gonna let you on. And then, even though the majority of the country's with us, 70% on Medicare for all, 76% on raising taxes on the rich, 78% on climate change, on every issue, the country's massively progressive. But television and the print media, and led by the New York Times, has such disdain and bias against progressives that they never ever feature them. And so then, why does that hurt so much? Because then, if you have no media multiplying your message, amplifying your message, well, then that hurts the progressive cause, because no one gets to hear things. So on cable news, wall to wall, Iran is a real issue. Should we go to war? Should we not go to war? Venezuela, should we go to war or not? They're dictators. You never hear there's 83 other dictators that nobody ever talks about. That progressive message never makes it on the cable news. And I can go on in each of those instances. And then they turn around and they make it seem like we're the fringe. No, we're mainstream, and there's a giant media blockade against us. And yes, the New York Times is doing a miserable job of it.
So
miserable.
Let me jump in, because while everything you're saying about progressives not getting included in the conversation is true, for me, and the way that I reacted to this is a little different. Yes, I care about the progressive message getting out there, but I feel like progressives have been beaten down and have been belittled so much by the media that their dismissive nature doesn't surprise me. The thing that still somehow surprises me, and I don't know why it does, because I've already come to this realization over and over again, is this like nonsense that gets like peddled regarding just work really hard, be really smart, do all the right things, and you get rewarded. No, you don't. You don't get rewarded for those things in this society. You get rewarded if you're willing to whore yourself out there, right? Get involved in nonsense controversies, do things that are salacious, just lead any type of drama on a show. Be someone's daughter, whatever nonsense that doesn't require a single ounce of hard work. That's what gets rewarded. I'm gonna give you the examples, okay, from the actual piece that I'm talking about here. The on-screen confrontations and salacious rumors about off-screen intrigue, panelists screaming and crying backstage, hosts and producers needing to be physically separated have always been central to the show's appeal. At times, the drama between hosts eclipsed interest in what was happening on air. That's what it is. That's what it is. So who wants to pretend to be a conservative daughter of a politician? Can you guys come on here and just pretend like you're disagreeing with us, and we'll get into ridiculous spats that'll then get a lot of press attention, and then maybe we'll get taken seriously?
I mean, isn't that ironic? That if Anna and I, let's say we had a fake fight, like real, like it looked really bad and there was a lot of drama, and then would people be more likely to cover it? Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Let me just roll my eyes every time you speak.
Yeah.
We'll practice it right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, can I do it too or no?
Can I just say that person is my best friend? How dare you? Okay.
Okay, you're my wedding, Denise.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I guess I just needed to vent about this. It's so frustrating to see like these insanely long glowing features about nonsense. Celebrating and applauding nonsense. That's why we have Trump.
Yeah.
That's why we have all of the situations we have politically right now. It's because our media celebrates nonsense.
Okay, I'm gonna end on this. And again, it gives you a sense of why it's so important. The contrast between how much coverage Trump got and how much coverage Bernie Sanders got in the lead up to the 2016 election. So Bernie Sanders was on a lot of Sunday talk shows, to be fair, but he was, there was pretty much a blockade elsewhere. It should have been a fascinating, amazing story. He closed a 60-point lead on Hillary Clinton. 60 points, unprecedented, never seen before. On the network news, on the evening news, I know you think nobody watches that anymore, but that's because you're young. No, actually, more people watch that than cable news, and they had almost no coverage of Bernie Sanders in the year 2015 as he was closing that 60 lead, almost none. Okay. On the other hand, in the primaries alone, Donald Trump got over $1 billion in free media coverage, and what did that do? That propelled him. And so, what did Bernie Sanders have? He had policies that were detailed and that he had stuck with for 40 years and that were now gaining momentum throughout the country and polling incredibly well.
Big mistake.
Okay.
Big mistake. You should know which country you're living in.
That's
you're
right.
in the United States of America.
So if New York Times, Washington Post, and cable news saw that and thought, oh, that man of substance that closed a 60-point lead and that has all the young people in this country amazed by him and following him, not interesting, okay?
I mean, look at his hair.
But a reality show clown, an orange clown, fascinating. Give him $1 billion. Okay, let me ask you guys this. Okay, put Bernie Sanders aside. If for a second, now Donald Trump's a strong conservative in their point of view. I think he's incredibly weak. Oh, one could argue I'm a strong progressive. In fact, I'm banned from most of television because oh no, you're too strong. I don't know what that means. Like, no, It's like sometimes you raise your voice like this. No, the right wing can raise their voice all they want. The right wing can bash the media and call them the enemy of the people. No problem. Please, sir. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. All over cable news, New York Times, etc. Right? Progressives, hey, watch yourself. Okay. So imagine if they gave me, us, Kyle Kulinski, it doesn't matter. You name a progressive. Of course, New York Times doesn't know any of these people. They're like, research. We don't do research to the New York Times. What's shiny? Squirrel, right? Anyway, if they gave, let's take Kyle, let's take me out of it, right? Kyle Kulinski does Secular Talk, wonderful talk show host. He's in the TYT network. He started on his own, etc. Got an enormous amount of subscribers, unbelievable amount of views, etc. No one in the mainstream media has ever heard of him because they don't do research. They don't know. We're all moving a generation, but they're like online. I don't know what that is. Imagine if you gave Kyle Kulinski $1 billion in free media coverage. $1 billion. Do you know what we could do? He alone could move the entire national conversation. But nope, progressives, you get nothing. Conservatives, billions of dollars in free media. So does that affect things? Hell yes, it does. Look, this is gonna be one of the things that I talk about at the rally we're doing in Iowa. June 8th in Des Moines, tyt.com/rally, be there. We're gonna try to change that conversation. And they're gonna, if we are successful, they will cry and cry and cry. I guarantee you they will blame us and they go, oh my God, anyone acting strong or aggressive on the progressive side is not allowed, and they will try to ban us from more places, okay? But we're gonna roll that army out. And so come with me, let's go talk about it, because if we don't change the national conversation, they're doing it again right now. And it's gonna affect who the next president of the United States is. It's gonna affect how this whole country goes. We have to end this bias, and it's the worst bias in America. And for the people who are supposed to be so good at this, and I can't stand the respect that the New York Times gets now, because all they ever do is glorify the right wing and the mainstream and the establishment, and they never give progressives a voice, and that's the reality.
All right, now that we have concluded our venting session, we will come back from the break and cover the real news, including the latest.
No, but I'd say that's the most important news.
Yeah.
Because if progressive message never gets the word out, it's a super unfair fight. And then you say, okay, well, they could get it out through you. We do. They get it out through us, and the rest of the media goes, another blockade. Okay, if they come on the Young Turks, don't talk about it. Blockade, right? So with that blockade, what the hell are we supposed to do? And then they're like, hey, why do you get angry at us? Why do we get angry at you? You know what? I don't know. Maybe I should be like the conservatives and say that you're the enemy of the people. Then maybe you might cover us. Then you might go, oh my God, I'm scandalized. Oh, and wait, is anybody a kid of anyone? Because then we might really cover it.
Yeah.
All right, look, yes, the news of the day, including Donald Trump being insane in the Rose Garden. God damn it, tell everybody about the show, okay? Or tell everybody about any progressive show that you love, okay? Online or otherwise. They're almost all online because you're not allowed on TV. But so, because if you don't do, we can make the things go viral together. But if you don't do it, this mainstream media is never gonna come to our help. They are not our friend, they are not our ally. They're not even neutral. They can't stand us, Young Turks. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. We've got a lot of exciting stuff for you guys. I'm gonna read one tweet here and then I'll get to the rally. Lexi Eve says, to be honest, I never even heard of The View until the Young Turks started dunking on Meghan McCain. I don't take many TV talk shows serious, and what I have seen has proved The View is a very shallow, opinion-based, mediocre, perhaps up to par with its viewers' intellects. Look, I don't know about their viewers' intellects, etc. And again, I feel a little bit bad because they have two great progressives on there. But guys, that's the great disconnect in this country. And it's maddening that almost all the mainstream media doesn't understand it. That people that are under the age of 35, no one's got a TV. No one has a TV. That's why you don't see The View unless it's on the Young Turks. You don't see any of this stuff, a lot of you, unless it's on the Young Turks, right? But every writer and everybody on TV cannot get that through their thick head. They're like, no, if it's on Morning Joe, then it's real. If it's online, it's not real. Meanwhile, they're like, where's my clicks? Where's my clicks, right? but what happened? I thought you didn't care about online. But they don't cover any of that stuff because they're so backwards. And that's why I say they're bad at their job. And then they get all emotional and they get hurt. They're like, oh, you can't say I'm bad at my job. So the right wing says you're the enemy of the people. Anyway,
okay, let me
God, all right.
Let me give you some lives. I was a little worried that our bitterness went a little too far, but apparently you guys liked it. So Ray writes in and says, I agree with you both 100% on the ignorant drama stuff, and we can thank the fake reality shows that people are too stupid to realize are scripted and fake. So yeah, I mean, I think it is like a little lead up. All of those reality shows and all the appeal of that drama and how it's been like really pushed on people in the mass media. It's all kind of led to what we have today.
Yeah, look, the double standard, you know me, I've talked about this in post games, old school, etc. The irrationality is what drives me nuts. I cannot abide it. So they say, well, to be fair, the drama on The View or the drama of Trump is so interesting, we couldn't turn away from it, right? And then they say, well, you guys are too dramatic on air.
I know. But we're dramatic because we get angry about, when we get angry on the show, we don't get angry at one another and we don't get, well, sometimes we'll get angry in the middle of a debate, but we're debating issues. And
we're doing it honestly. And
right.
I said, look, part of the reason I'm all worked up today is I was on KPCC, which is here in public radio here in LA. And everything was total nonsense on there. Republican talking point after Republican talking point. I finally get a chance to speak and I get animated and they're like, hey. Because a right winger can say anything. They can rip your face off and it's okay. If a progressive dares to fight back, hey, okay? I'd be surprised if I'm ever, the callers loved it, of course, because they never get to hear it. And so, but ratings doesn't matter when it comes to us, views doesn't matter when it comes to us, drama doesn't matter when it comes to us. And yes, I'm bitter, but yes, it makes a difference for progressives. It does also, Majority Report and Jimmy Dore and Todd Kalinske and you name it, Rational, National, it doesn't matter. None of them ever break through because of the bias. Okay, look, we're gonna smash that. So let's talk about part of how we're gonna do that. So I have a great update on the rally. I got more folks coming in. I think you're gonna love them. So this is on June 8th in Des Moines, Iowa. I need you guys there. There's a reason for that. And we're gonna try to affect the presidential election and politics overall. And look, the one thing that I will promise you is, if we execute it and we do it right, what I talk about in the speech, it will make a giant difference. I promise you that. It's a guarantee, but you gotta do it with me, okay? So now, folks who are joining me, Alison Hartson is gonna come join us. She's gonna speak at the rally in Iowa as well. She was a Just Democratic candidate for Senate in California, and she's now a leader of the TYT Army. Also joining us, here come Ojeda. Richard Ojeda is gonna come. He's gonna give the speech before me. If you don't know Ojeda, you should. So he closed the biggest lead in the whole country in 2018 elections. Now, he didn't wind up winning because his district was plus 49 for Trump, but he closed 37 points, 37. How did he do it? He did it with ads like this.
I'm Richard Ojeda, and I've been under fire multiple times in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. Tattooed on my back are the names of my brothers that did not come home. Now, my military record and my love of this country has come under fire once again by Carol Miller. How dare she, a millionaire who has enjoyed a life of privilege under the very freedoms that I have fought for. I approve this message because I love this country and I'm willing to fight for it. And you.
We're gonna start a populist revolution in this country. We just are. Ojeda's coming, buckle up, right wing, brace for impact. So he's gonna talk about anti-corruption. If you never saw his ads against corruption, okay, that was an aggressive ad, get a load of this.
I'm Richard Ojeda, and people say that I'm angry. Well, angry is an understatement. When I come home and I find that I got children in my backyard that have it worse than the kids that I saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, I can't accept that. When I see companies using bankruptcy loopholes to keep from paying our coal miners the pensions that they work for, I will not sit quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been sold out. We've been sold out by people like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and the Washington insiders. I approve this message because I am angry and I'm ready to fight back.
That whole town cleared out when they heard Ojeda was coming. Wait till you see Des Moines, okay? And by the way, more announcements might be coming soon. But I need you guys to sign up and I need you to be there. Go to tyt.com/rally. I'll see you in Iowa. Okay, now I got breaking news for you guys. A judge has decided that Donald Trump cannot block Deutsche Bank and Capital One from turning over his financial records. To which I say, tick, 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 tick. Why do you think Donald Trump lost his mind today in the Rose Garden? He walked out of a meeting with Nancy Pelosi and went ballistic in addressing the press. The pressure is getting to him. Why do you think that in the Mueller report they say that he obstructed justice 12 times? Now Mueller says, hey, the Justice Department cannot indict a sitting president. It's up to Congress to take action on this. But he laid out clear evidence of 12 different obstruction of justice. Now, if he didn't collude with the Russians during the election, what's he obstructing for? Why is he covering up? Well, it's because he doesn't want you to get to his financial records, which has all the evidence of his different financial crimes. When Mueller didn't investigate his business ties, Trump must have thought, how did I get this lucky? This is even luckier than when my daddy left me $413 million. This is even luckier than when I went bankrupt 6 times and still got away with it because my daddy gave me more money. So, but now when the Democrats are continuing to insist, we want those records, that's what's driving him crazy. He's less worried about anything else than he is, do not find out about my finances. So now in this case, it is US District Judge Court for the Southern District of New York, and it is US District Judge Edgardo Ramos that made the ruling here. Of course, it'll be appealed, but the fact that it went against him is bad news, and it is proceeding quickly through the courts, way too quickly for Donald Trump's taste. His accountants, Mazars, he lost a case on that too. They have to turn over the records. This has been subpoenaed by Congress. Now Deutsche Bank has to turn over all of his financial records as well as Capital One. Tick, 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 tick. On top of that, same day, New York State just passed a law. Andrew Cuomo has to sign it. He said some equivocal stuff, but it'd be insane for him not to sign it. Where they said we can now turn over his state tax returns. Ooh, tick, 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 tick.
There was wow. So the state of New York is getting super aggressive because there's that update. And yesterday we spoke about a different update regarding whether basically state lawmakers want to be able to prosecute individuals in the Trump administration, maybe possibly Trump himself, if he's been investigated for a crime on a federal level and maybe the state prosecutors would want to investigate him for the same crime, right? So it's like a double jeopardy type situation, but in this case, they would make an exception if they feel that an investigation is necessary for possible criminal activity.
And several states, including New York, are thinking of keeping off anyone from the ballot at the presidential level if they do not turn over their tax returns. And insiders are saying Trump might not even go on the ballot in those states. Think about how worried he is that you're gonna get his financial records, that he's willing to say while running for president, okay, I just leave me off the ballot in those states, I don't even care. That's amazing. There's a time bomb in those records. I guarantee it. I've said it from day one, and everything he's ever done has confirmed it. And now he's in a cold sweat panic over this.
And what makes this different from the investigation into possible conspiracy with Putin is that in this case, you have members of his previous legal team, Michael Cohen included, who have under oath testified that Donald Trump has committed certain financial crimes, including inflating his assets to obtain loans from Deutsche Bank and then deflating his assets in order to commit tax fraud.
So there's 2 different sets of potential crimes here. One is the one Anna is mentioning. There's insurance fraud, tax fraud, the list goes on and on. And then there is the connections to Russia. So let me give you 2 final quotes here from the Washington Post story today about this breaking news. Shortly before Election Day in 2016, Deutsche Bank finalized a $285 million loan to Kushner's real estate company, the Washington Post has previously reported. So that is giving you the context that you need. Kushner obviously is son-in-law and working in the White House now. Congressional Democrats have long said they want to examine the bank's loans to the Trump and Kushner businesses, particularly to see if there is any connection to money laundering in Russia. And Deutsche Bank has already paid hundreds of millions of dollars in fines for doing money laundering with Russians. Tick, 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 tick.
All right,
Okay.
So we have some other news, it's kind of related. Donald Trump abruptly ran out of a infrastructure meeting following a press conference that Nancy Pelosi had. Apparently what she said during this press conference, which we're about to show you, really upset him.
We do believe that it's important to follow the facts. We believe that no one is above the law, including the President of the United States, and we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up,
So right before the meeting, she has that press conference. She accuses Donald Trump of engaging in a cover-up, and then they're about to have this infrastructure meeting. They get together to have the infrastructure meeting. It did not last long. It lasted about 5 minutes and he abruptly walked out. According to reports, Trump was visibly angry when he arrived in the cabinet room about 15 minutes late to meet with Pelosi and Schumer. He did not shake hands or sit down, and after accusing Pelosi of saying something terrible, he headed out without allowing time for a response.
Okay, guys, just pause there. I mean, this is literally what kids do. I'm taking my ball and going home. Adults, including, I should hope, the President of the United States, sit down, even if it's their adversaries. And think about this. Donald Trump is willing to sit down with Kim Jong-un, and he's not willing to sit down with Democratic leadership. He said that he's in love with Kim Jong-un, but he's not willing to even talk to Democratic leadership. He yells at Nancy Pelosi and says, "You said something terrible about me. Marcy told me in 3rd grade class. And so in recess, I'm gonna strike back." I mean, you said something terrible about me and you walk out? What kind of a child does that? The press and everyone else, including Democratic leadership, are treating it like things are normal. They're not normal. The emperor has no clothes. The president has no mind.
Yeah, well, so following his abrupt walkout of that meeting, he gave his own press conference, and here's what he had to say.
Just saw that Nancy Pelosi, just before our meeting, made a statement that we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. Well, it turns out I'm the most, and I think most of you would agree to this, I'm the most transparent president probably in the history of this country. Things are going well, and I said, let's have the meeting on infrastructure, we'll get that done easily. That's one of the easy ones. And instead of walking in happily into a meeting, I walk in to look at people that had just said that I was doing a cover-up. I don't do cover-ups. You people know that probably better than anybody.
Okay, so first, just some quick fact checking before Cenk gives you more context into the environment around him as he was giving this press conference. He is not the most transparent president. He is literally,
Really?
He's literally suing every single financial institution he's ever done business with to prevent the release of any type of financial document that has his name on it. That is the definition of being non-transparent, untransparent. That is exactly what he's doing right now. He also, remember, had his goons go after the schools that he went to prevent the release of his transcript so people wouldn't know what his actual grades were. I mean, you are not transparent. You are the antithesis of transparent.
Finally.
Opaque, that is the right word.
Okay, so finally, someone in the mainstream press said it. So New York Magazine's Adam Raymond, in discussing another issue, his golfing trips, which we'll get to later in the program, said, the president's a pathological liar. Thank you, finally, right? Of course he is. He's literally said, according to the Washington Post documentation, over 10,000 lies since he's taken office. I don't know that any other human being can physically even say that many lies in that short period of time. And all he ever does, so he comes out and he says to the press, who he says is the enemy of the people, who he has this incredibly adversarial relationship with. Now, I think, as most of you would admit, I'm the most transparent president ever. No, not a single person in that room would admit that, other than if they work for one of those conservative trash websites, right? So, how does he even say that with a straight face?
I mean, he lies every day with a straight face. He's gotten a lot of practice. So it doesn't shock me or surprise me when he lies. It's brazen, it's laughable, but at the same time, look, I just want to quickly comment on the politics of what's going on and what happened today, because it's in my opinion, if it was meant to be political and if there was strategy behind what Pelosi and Schumer did today, I think it was a little genius, and I want to give them a little bit of credit. So I don't think it was an accident that Pelosi accused him of a cover-up in a press conference right before this meeting. Everyone knows that Trump has incredibly thin skin. Everyone knows that he likes to throw temper tantrums like a child. And so he did what he did with walking out of that important infrastructure meeting. He had his little meltdown press conference. And then what do you think the Democrats are gonna do? They're gonna have their own press conference where they're gonna poke fun at him and they're gonna make him look like the child that he really is. And here's an example of that. Here's Pelosi talking about Trump bailing.
For some reason, maybe it was lack of confidence on his part, that he really couldn't match the greatness of the challenge that we have. Wasn't really respectful of the reason of the Congress and the White House working together. He just took a pass, and it just makes me wonder why he did that. In any event, I pray for the President of the United States.
Okay, that very last part, like I pray for the President of the United States.
No.
I feel like that was gratuitous. Let's move on.
No. I loved it.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so you know me, not a big fan of Pelosi, to say the least. But this to Pelosi on this one. Seriously, well played. Getting under his skin before the meeting always works. So finally, someone using a little bit of strategy. So credit where credit is due, and then afterwards to come out and say like, to clearly imply there's something wrong with the president, and he wasn't man enough for the challenge.
He was weak.
Yes, thank you. Finally. We've been saying this for 4 years. Don't attack him on, like, it's okay to point out his bigotry, etc. But if you really want to do political damage to him, talk about how weak he is, how insecure he is, what a child he is, etc. So that's what she did there. And even saying, I pray for the president, is wonderfully demeaning.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. It just, I know what she's about. So for me, it rubbed me the wrong way. But you're right in that it's gonna work in this, I believe, political strategy. One more video though, and this is Chuck Schumer, because he went a little further than Pelosi in the press conference, and I actually really enjoyed watching what he had to say here.
To watch what happened in the White House would make your jaw drop. We Democrats believe in infrastructure. We believe our roads and bridges need repair. We believe that rural America, as well as inner city America, needs broadband. And so, despite signals in the previous few weeks that he might not be serious, we went forward. We came here very seriously. The president asked in his letter last night, where would Democrats spend the money on infrastructure? I was prepared to give him a 35-page plan detailing this in all the areas I mentioned and more that had the broad support of Senate and House Democrats. We are interested in doing infrastructure. It's clear the president isn't. He is looking for every excuse. But now that he was forced to actually say how he'd pay for it, he had to run away.
Oof, run away, that's a great phrase. We want to provide broadband to rural America, right? Yeah. Now, you can have a debate about how genuine Democrats are, Democratic leadership is when it comes to these issues, but I'm just specifically commenting on the political strategy here. And politically speaking, they are killing it with this type of strategy.
Look, we're the fairest show in America. and so we criticize Schumer and Pelosi when no one else in Washington will. They've shown incredibly weak leadership for a long time. But we would give them praise if they showed strength, because we have no bias against them. We just want them to do better. So today, I thought they were wonderful. So they played Trump, he fell right into their trap, and then they made him look like a fool. Yes, give me more of that. Then we'll give you more credit. So now to Trump, he said, well, you can't investigate and legislate simultaneously. It just doesn't work that way. Yes, it does. That you just made that up.
You've been investigated your entire, administration, your entire stint as president.
And not only that, let's look at Republican hypocrisy. They did 9 investigations of Benghazi. They investigated Hillary Clinton's emails the whole time. Should we have stopped doing any legislation? Should we not have done? By the way, as the Republicans were doing investigations, should we not have done the Trump tax cuts for the rich? Then they would be like, no, we can do both at the same time. We can definitely do both at the same time, right? No, that's not a thing. Trump, as usual, made that up. and it's because he's a child. And so now he's saying, no, we're not gonna do any infrastructure. Now look, they probably weren't gonna get a deal anyway. Why? Because like, are the Democrats genuine? Again, this is a rare case where I think the Democrats are genuine. They do want that infrastructure bill. It doesn't hurt the donors. In fact, it probably helps them, but it also helps real Americans. So it's kind of a win-win. It's kind of easy, but I'll give credit to where credit is due anyway to the Democrats. The Republicans, on the other hand, Trump in specific says, yeah, let's do it, but I want to make sure that all my friends get contracts. It's, by the way, like autocrat 101. It's what like every strongman in every country does. Like, by the way, you know who else does it? The Iranians. They give all the contracts to the Revolutionary Guard. Maduro gives all the contracts to his military guys. So, and now Trump says, I'm gonna give it to all my friends and you're gonna pay tolls the rest of your life. Well, people hate tolls. And they're like, no, but we gotta funnel the profits to the companies that I choose. Oh, God. So they weren't gonna get it, my guess, my hope was that they were not gonna get a deal on those terms. But for Trump to walk out and say, I'm not going to do infrastructure that would help the American people and that I promised because you're mad at Nancy Pelosi, she was mean to me. That does not play well. You look like a guy. Look, it's not just me. I think that even if you're in the middle or even if you're a Trump supporter, when you say, I'm not gonna do things to help you because Nancy made me angry. That looks terrible. You look like a total fool. And by the way, this is also, this is terrible strategy all around. You know, he might have also wanted to walk out and think that, oh yeah, this is gonna show them. Apparently, there's now reporting that his advisors were like, no, don't walk out and don't give that speech. It's a bad idea. He came with a pre-prepared sign behind it. Wait, if you were just going to do this at the spur of the moment, when did you make the sign? You're gonna be shocked at what the sign said. No collusion, no obstruction.
Oh my God.
What does that have to do with the infrastructure bill, right? Basically, he's saying, if you don't let me get out of jail for free, I'm going to hurt the American people. That's who Donald Trump is.
When we come back, we're gonna give you the details on how much or how little of the border wall the Trump administration has constructed.